I've seen triple A-list that launches something and it's kind of a flop. And then I've seen super niche people that will sell out instantaneously.
One of the common denominators with creator brands, they're marketers from like a content perspective, but they're not actually marketers when it comes to like email, SMS, channel marketing. Like
Making sure that if you are going to put your name on it or your brand on it, that it makes sense.
Hey friends, welcome to Above the Fold podcast. I'm your host, Jess Servion. We're going to be talking about everything in your customer's journey. You're going to learn things about customer experience, brand experience, and marketing secrets that help you drive your brand success. So stay tuned, buckle up, and let's get into the episode.
welcome back to another episode of Above the Fold with me, Jess. This week I am in New York City and I am with my new friend, Kate Zaman. She is the Senior VP of Partnerships and Marketing at ReserveBar. Kate, do you want to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. So, as just mentioned, I'm Kate Zaman. I've been in the wine and spirits industry my entire career, and started out working at a large distributor, Southern Glazers. Worked at a small vodka startup. Worked at Pernod Ricard for 10 years, and now I am currently heading up all of partnerships and marketing at ReserveBar, where I've been here about 4 years.
That's awesome. What got you into the alcohol world? Like, I would love to hear that journey.
Yeah, so I kind of fell into it. In college, I went to Boston University and I thought I wanted to go into events. I was majoring in hospitality business. And I mean, maybe it was just that I wanted like subsidized alcohol and I wanted to get into bars before I was 21 legally.
Yeah.
But I ended up working for a hospitality company there. And the owner of the hospitality company was working for a spirits brand. And she had a whole marketing company where she was looking for brand ambassadors to go in, serve the products, and talk to people about these new brands that were coming out and get them into new bars, nightclubs, etc. So I thought that sounded amazing. And I was kind of like a brand ambassador, shot girl, brand representative that would go into bars. And it was a lot of fun, and it became this pyramid scheme. I had every single one of my friends working for me in college. And then during senior year spring break, they were like, "Do you want to go to Vegas to work the bar and nightclub show?" So I was like, obviously, yes.
Yeah.
So I had all my girlfriends. There was about 12 of us. We all went to Vegas for spring break, and our flights weren't paid for, but pretty much everything else was. And our job was to work at the trade show and introduce people about these different brands that we were working on. And then, doing that, I met a ton of people and networked and ended up meeting a bunch of executives at Southern Wine and Spirits at the time. And I kind of fell into it and was like, maybe I want to do this for work, and maybe this could be like an actual real job. So ended up talking to people at Southern and said I wanted to move to New York City. Interviewed a week after I graduated and started as a key account manager running nightclubs and boutique hotels
Wow.
in Manhattan when I was 22, which is probably the best job you can have at 22.
Yeah.
And, I was working on brands like Perry Jouet and Absolute and, all these incredible brands. And my job was to get the brands into these, on the menus of different nightclubs, teaching the wait staff about these brands, the history behind them, and educating people on the brands. And it was great. I ran around New York City with a little wine bag, and it was an amazing start to my career, and really just met so many incredible people.
Yeah.
People at hospitality companies, people at brands. And back then, there wasn't that many women that worked in the industry either. And so it was cool to, I was working on the streets, I call them, running around with my wine bag at that time, and just got to meet some people that were starting out in the industry and, some smaller brands. And that's what led me to my next adventure within the spirits industry. There was a small caffeinated vodka that was launched, and a guy named David Mandel was launching that brand. And, he really saw something in me and asked if I wanted to be his state manager for a couple of states. And at the time, I'm 23 now. I have, a little bit of experience, but, he really trusted me, and we launched the whole East Coast. There was maybe 6 of us at the company, and it was an incredible 2 years, and continued to just really meet tons of people within the industry. And it's been such an incredible journey as I've moved to different companies, but really kind of focused on the networking, the people, and the incredible brands that I've been able to work for.
Yeah, I think that's a really awesome story. And I think the best part about that, about your story, is the fact that so many of us will maybe like go to school for one thing and then we start working and then we start developing more and more skills and then we land in like these other places that we didn't think that we were necessarily going to land in, right? And I think that that's also really important too because we talk a lot about like brand building or operating like on the brand side, and in order to do these roles and like marketing and partnerships and even like other things like customer experience or whatever it is, you have to have so many other skill sets that you do not learn in college.
100%. I was just talking to a girl who was applying to college, and she was asking, how did you get into your role? I want to get into marketing. What do I, do to get there? And my advice to her was to get as much work experience during college as possible. The classes are amazing, and, you learn those from the book kind of thing. But the most valuable experience is what you get on the job and from meeting people.
Yeah.
And so college, when you look back and I think about my career in college, it's really about the people I met there and the experiences I had versus what I actually learned in the class.
Yeah.
And so, it's getting as many internships as possible. It's, staying in touch with different people. And even if they're in completely different industries, you never know where your paths are going to cross later on in life.
Yeah.
And so, not burning bridges is also so important. And just thinking about not in a, not in a manipulative type of way, but just thinking about how you can help other people that you went to school with and how partnerships, that is the crucial piece between partnerships is what can I do to help you that can also like help me with what we're doing. And so when I look at the people that I went to college with or people that I'm friends with, I'm constantly trying to think of people that might be good for them to meet and introduce them to them, or, thinking outside the box of like interesting partnerships that could come into play that are not what you would normally anticipate for a specific brand.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. My journey is not the same, right? But like very similar in the sense like that I went to college for one thing and then tried on all these other hats. And that's like what landed me into marketing today. My initial journey was like, okay, a lot of like customer service type of roles because like I didn't really know what I was wanted to do. So it was like either service or sales, right?
Mhm.
And then I learned marketing things from sales because like partnerships, marketing, like marketing at the core of what it is like you're convincing a consumer to purchase from you, right? And so in marketing, you're doing that in campaigns or whatever
Mhm.
other ways. And then like, through that journey, did all the things and then did a little bit of product marketing for like SaaS companies and then ended up in e-commerce and then did like mostly customer experience, but then more like retention and lifecycle marketing and now brand strategy. And so like that, but like it's just everybody's journey is different is my point. And like you can really end up wherever it is that you want to be, but you have to acquire those skills. You have to do the internships, like you're saying. You
Mhm.
have to like network and never burn a bridge. Absolutely.
And doing things like customer service or sales, I feel like makes you so much more valuable as a marketer.
Mhm.
When you're a marketer from the very, very beginning, sometimes you don't get some of the context and understand like the consumer really who's at the heart of all of it, right? And if you've, I joke all the time, I say to my team back on my street days when I was rolling around with my wine bag, but like
Yeah.
you get to know who the true consumer is. You can do a lot of focus groups and a lot of studies. And I can remember being in a meeting at Pernod Ricard and them talking about, this is what this big agency that we, said the end consumer is for this wine brand. And I knew I'd seen who was actually ordering it. And I'm like, I don't, and after, years later and probably a lot more money, they realized like, oh, actually this is who the true consumer is. And there's also, who you target versus who's actually purchasing your product.
Yes. I mean, I say this all the time. Like, absolutely. It's like you can do all the studies in the world. And I do think, though, those are really valuable. Like, from a brand strategy
Mhm.
perspective, like, that is really valuable to understand who your target audience is, who your customer personas are. But as you get on and as you're selling your product more and more, or your software, whatever it is, your consumer's behavior changes and you have to iterate. And then you also discover that like different people might pick up your product. Who you initially think might be completely different than who's actually picking up your product.
Right. And there's also the halo effect, right?
Mhm.
If you have a product that's a really, really high-end luxury product, there's the people that wanna get into that, and so they're buying the entry level version because they want to have a piece of that luxury, but they can't yet afford the crème de la crème.
Right.
And so having an entry level point is a great way, for a luxury brand to then, as those people do acquire more money, they're going to be loyal to that brand and then trade up over time. And then there's the people that are coming in right from the top, and you want to make sure that you are not, making it too elementary for them. And that's what's so important about like a brand story.
Yes.
And the brands that have the people nowadays more so than ever, I feel like, want to know what the brand has to stand for. They want to know the ingredients that are going into a product, how it's made, why it was made. And it's not just this is a great product and this celebrity standing behind it, because people can see through that stuff
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah.
And so people want to know the quality story and, the why and the who and the what, more
Yeah.
so than ever.
I totally agree with you. I totally, totally agree with you. Something that actually came up for me like just this week was it was about Alex Cooper's Unwell brand. Have you heard of like the drink that she's come out with?
A little bit.
Yeah. So she came out with a drink, a hydration beverage for women, and it's essentially for women, but not just like, okay, here's your hydration drink for like your hangover. It's also like, here's your hydration drink for like whatever it is that if in your busy life, right?
Mhm.
And it is very much a part of her brand as like Unwell Media. Like her whole persona, her whole personal brand is like kind of Hot Mess Express, like to sum it up. Okay. But what's so interesting about this beverage is that so many people are up in arms about it because she partnered with Nestle. And so she partnered with Nestle on it. And, Nestle has its own rap, but like at the same time, it's like Nestle is a beverage that is on the shelves. And, and for, I absolutely think I'm not getting into the politics of Nestle,
Mhm.
but exactly what you were saying though, is that sometimes, accessibility, I guess. Like, maybe Nestle water is the only one on the shelves, like at that time, right? Not going to get into like super the politics, but so going back to like Alex Cooper, so people were kind of up in arms about it, but then like the other piece that's coming up about it is that um, people are excited about the beverage, but then they're curious about what's going into it and like the why and all of those things. And so the hot takes right now about just the beverage pieces is that we don't really know if this is like what is in it, like who is this really for? It's like it's not really landing for a lot of people. And my point of bringing that up is that it's just so interesting how it's not even just consumers anymore that want to know the what and the why. It's also the other brand builders who want to know like the who, what, and why of what you're doing. I don't know like fully where I'm going, but like I just think it's really interesting how consumers and even just like individuals really care about every ingredient that's in your product now.
I think a lot of it too is that more and more times you're finding out down the line that something's bad for you. And, that's why I feel like with all these like fads and these diets and these crazy things, it's like all about just like moderation of everything. Cause you never, I mean, anything in excess is bad, right? And so it's just kind of trying to make smart decisions for yourself and, not consuming too much of anything so that you don't have to worry about like, oh, that tofu, you thought you were doing the right thing, but now it's bad for
I
you. And
know.
who knows?
I
And,
know.
we have the same problem in alcohol, right? There's people that are, doing dry January right now.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more about just moderation throughout the year and not like being all or nothing. And just, living life and just enjoying.
I know. Just enjoying. Exactly. I mean, listen, I think there's food and beverage is a whole bag of like what's happening right now of like just ingredients and all of these things. But you're absolutely right. Living life and in moderation. It's like whether the unwell hydration is bad for you or not, you're not supposed to take like 20 of them a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the point of it, right?
Well, what's so trendy too now is in terms of bev alc trends is additive free tequila.
Mm,
And so that we've seen a huge, I mean, the traffic that comes to our website that's looking for those brands that are additive free. And it's still very, very early on in this trend because people are just starting to like look into, oh, is that brand that I usually love to drink that I thought was super high quality. But then you find out afterwards that there's a lot of like caramel color or vanilla added, and that's why it's easier to kind of drink. And so it's even more challenging to find a tequila that's additive free that also is smooth and delicious. But then but then there's like the health benefits of it, and things that have a little bit less sugar might in not
Yeah.
give you the headache the next day. And it's not just the alcohol that you have to think about.
Right. Right. I mean, right. That's how I'm thinking about my alcohol consumption. Like I'm actually not doing a dry January and like I do things in moderation. I don't drink that often, but like I do love a good beverage. I love a good fancy beverage even at that,
Yeah.
but I do think that I do now that you're saying that, I do think about like additives at this point too because it's like one or two could affect you like the next day even. Even if it's in moderation, it's just like from a hangover perspective. But yeah, but okay, besides additives and sustainability and all those things, we haven't even gotten to ReserveBar.
Yes.
Please tell me. So what I'm curious about from your journey is tell me about ReserveBar, but also tell me why you decided to join ReserveBar.
Yeah, so ReserveBar is an incredible, technology company, and it's expanded so much in the 4 years that I've worked there. When I was so starting off, ReserveBar.com is a luxury e-commerce website where we have wine and spirits on there for consumers to be able to purchase. We do a lot of stuff with corporate gifting, personalized engraved bottles, but at its core, ReserveBar is a technology company. So we also own Minibar Delivery, which is an app where you can get, your favorite product delivered to you in Manhattan in an hour.
Yeah.
And the technology that powers those two e-commerce sites also power tons of other websites. So we have a retail network of over 3,500 retailers across the US. And, all of them are licensed. They're part of our network, but we don't actually own those retail outlets. And, they are the ones that pick, pack, and ship out the orders for reservebar.com, but then also for Macallan.com, VeuveClicquot.com, Tito's.com, and lots of other brand websites where you go onto their website, you have the ability to be able to add to cart. And that's actually our technology white labeled in the back end.
Cool.
It's really, it's a really complex industry, wine and spirits is. A lot of laws, more so than in most industries, especially when you compare it to other CPG. But there's something called a 3-tier system. So the beverage company supplier, they sell to a distributor, like a Southern Glazers, as an example, who then sell to a licensed restaurant, liquor store, who then sell to the end consumer. So you can't cut out any of those tiers, especially in spirits. And so our technology really gives you the look and feel of selling direct to consumer for a spirit brand, but it still maintains the three-tier compliance of going through that. But as the consumer feels as if they're buying it from the brand, and you really get that experience of the brand really knowing who you are, which I think a lot of brands want to get to know their consumers well,
Yeah.
and they don't want to just make their CRM filled with people that just attended one of their free events, which is what happened in the past. Now they can actually know that Kate Zaman purchased a bottle on this day. She came back and gifted another bottle a week later. That's more of a loyal customer versus someone that was been in the CRM for months, but just joined a sweepstakes or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Going back to just kind of like the regulations of like e-commerce for alcohol, I'm just so curious, how do you verify if somebody is of the legal drinking limit? I mean, I know that I've had deliveries before and I've had to do like verifications like on like ID, but how do you verify in other ways?
Yeah, so for the most part, the verification is actually on the transfer of the product to the consumer. So just as you mentioned in your example, it's mostly either the courier or UPS, FedEx, whoever's actually doing that end delivery that's checking the verification that the person is 21.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. That makes absolute sense. I was just like curious because like every time you go to a website, even like THC websites, like I'm 21,
Yeah, or
you
you're
know?
putting in your birth date, which is, people can, of
I
course,
know.
but I think our focus is really making sure that we're using the people that are actually doing the delivery. We're really strict with them to make sure that they're checking IDs. And it's a lot more expensive when you're shipping in that method, but it's important that we, play by those rules and keep things safe.
I mean, you have to. And I also think that like to deliver alcohol is very much a luxury item too.
Absolutely. And on Reserve Bar, our core demographic is much older than 21. It definitely is more in the 30-year-old span because it's a more luxury consumer, as you mentioned, and people are coming to Reserve Bar to discover new products. I mean, we are known for our pre-sales and launches.
Mhm.
Lots of celebrity products, lots of like
Mhm.
high end, you can't buy it anywhere else kind of exclusives.
Love.
And that's really what our audience is coming to Reserve Bar for. And that's how I got introduced to Reserve Bar and started working there. When I was at Pernod Ricard, I worked very closely with the Reserve Bar team. At that time, it was a very, very small team. And I utilized Reserve Bar. At the time, I had started my own division at Pernod Ricard that was focused on B2B sales and marketing, where we would work with luxury boutiques such as Chanel and Christian Louboutin and a lot of the Richemont brands where they wanted to create experiences for their customers in store. So we would
Yeah.
do all these like scotches and watches events or
Wow.
champagne and caviar tastings with Louboutin shoes. And we were doing at that time about 150 events a year. And brands would come to us and say, "Hey, I want to buy champagne for all my stores across the US." And at the time, we didn't really have a way to be able to, ship that directly to an end consumer. So I partnered with Reserve Bar so that,
Oh.
they would, if they wanted a bottle engraved with their logo to send to their top VIP clients, Reserve Bar was the one that was actually helping make that happen. And so I was working very closely with them, and this was pre-pandemic. And once 2020 hit, and obviously a lot of the in person activations that we were doing were coming to a close, we were starting to do a lot more virtual tastings. Reserve Bar's business was blowing up, right?
Mhm.
E commerce was on fire. E commerce in the wine and spirits industry is 10 plus years behind CPG.
Yeah.
And at that time, you couldn't go to the liquor stores. People were drinking more than ever. And their business was hugely accelerating. And they were just about to get their Series B. And they were looking for someone to come on and, start up a partnership team. And then, so I started there 4 years ago. Next week, it'll be 4 years.
Oh wow.
I started just handling partnerships and sales, and then eventually took on all of marketing and the corporate concierge team. So
Wow.
now I have a big, amazing team under me. And, we're doing lots of incredible things and constantly pushing the envelope.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually curious about that from like a marketing perspective. Like, tell me, what is your favorite campaign that you guys have put on in, I don't know, in the last like 6 months?
So, what's cool, what's I would say like the best and the most challenging part is a lot of our assets and a lot of our creative campaigns come from brands.
Yeah.
So we are the avenue in which, or one of the channels, or we have many channels
Yeah.
that are helping them run those campaigns.
Mhm.
So we over the summer we were very, very lucky to do the launch with Sir Davis, which is Beyonce's whiskey.
Mhm.
So that was a really fun campaign. We helped build out their website
Wow.
and manage the direct to consumer piece there, as well as the campaign on all touch points within ReserveBar. So we have another really big celebrity brand that we're going to be launching in a couple weeks that I can't talk about
Yeah.
yet, but you will
Yeah.
see it. So that's really fun to kind of work with teams from the very beginning and kind of see, how are we going to talk to people on email versus SMS versus on site, and how does that coordinate with the pre-sale that they're launching on their own .coms. So that's always like a fun thing to kind of work through.
Yeah.
But Reserve Bar on its own, we are still pretty new to the we launched on demand within Reserve Bar probably like a couple years ago, but that's been great to just see how that's really spread, especially in Manhattan. Reserve Bar was really known for more of the engraving, the gifting, the high end. And
Mhm.
so it's great to see how the exposure of the on demand functionality of Reserve Bars really expanded over the past year as well.
Yeah, it's very multifaceted. And I love that because it's like I feel like the alcohol industry just changes very rapidly with like trends, right?
Mhm.
It's either you have like younger, I just turned 21, like out at clubs, or you have the individuals who are maybe having like a party or like a reason why of like I need to have like an abundance of alcohol and at wherever it is. And then you also have the people who like enjoy alcohol, scotch, whiskeys, like very much enjoy, just that reserve.
Yeah. Or the collectors,
Yes, the collectors.
we also see people, consumers from every end of the spectrum, right? The people that are buying RTDs, but then, we have a really serious following of our single barrel program. And we have, one guy, Lee, who on my team, who kind of focuses on this. But obviously, it's more than just him that's tasting all these different barrels. And this program has expanded like wildfire, and we partner with a lot of different brands to create single barrels that are exclusive to Reserve Bar, and then you can only get on there. And these barrels have won tons of awards, and it's this clientele also is looking for what's coming next. We'll often send an SMS to that specific clientele of people, and it'll sell out immediately because people know and can anticipate the quality that they
Mhm.
expect from the barrels that we choose.
Yeah.
And same thing with whether it's Louis Trace or Hennessy or Dom Perignon. We definitely have that caliber of customer who's looking for the newest vintage or that's gifting a 50 ml of Louis Trace to all their top clients for holiday.
Yeah. Amazing. God, such a luxury item, but like I love just also from like a consumer behavior standpoint, like the way that you're thinking about just like different types of like pre-selling and messaging, and like it's you're not just going and shooting into the dark, like you have such access for these brands to like that VIP group that you can really help them in like promoting and selling out very quickly.
And it's such a partnership. I would say that's the
Yes.
most important part of my team and I's job is the relationships with our supplier partners, because we're not just a vehicle for them to sell, but we are also their partner in marketing. And, there's nothing more that I love than talking to small startup brands that want advice, because we've seen, all the different things that work and don't work, right? And all the do's and don'ts. And I love working with brands who maybe this is their first parlay into the spirits world and they want advice of how to launch. And, I can give them experience. Obviously, I'm not letting them know of this brand did this and they screwed up,
Yeah.
but just showing them, what works and what can be a really successful launch and what to think about in advance and how to think about all the different channels separately.
Right.
And not just doing SMS for the sake of doing SMS, but making sure that you have something that's a little bit more urgent, which is why you're sending it via SMS versus an email that people maybe check when it's more convenient to them.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's really important too, because as you were talking about like celebrities like launching their beverages, their alcohol beverages, or spirits, um, w- for me, like I've worked with a lot of creators and you know, going back into I've worked on the side of like the brand, like we've built the brand and we were that brand for that creator, like it wasn't a third party. And then I've also worked on the side of like being a third party who helps creators. And one of the common denominators with creator brands is that you have this product and you're putting out this product and you're doing these things, but they're marketers from like a content perspective or their craft, but they're not actually marketers when it comes to like email, SMS, or like channel marketing, like traditional marketing, like us. So what you're offering as that third party partner, it's not even just like, okay, we're going to help you launch and we're going to do these things to like help you do like the pre-sale and the selling out. The strategy behind the why of why you market this way and like how you can turn your consumers into loyal buyers is really important.
And it's so interesting too, because there's it has no matter of how big of a celebrity it is if the
Yeah.
brand's going to do well or not. I've seen triple, triple, triple A list that launches something and it's kind of a flop. And then I've seen super niche people that I've never heard of and, have a really loyal audience within their following
Mm-hmm.
that will sell out instantaneously. And like, we don't even know what's hit us. I mean, we did something with a Twitch gamer, and it was a bourbon. I'd never heard of him. Certainly, I mean, in that arena, he was really, really big, but
Yeah.
not, A-list level.
Right.
And that's what's so interesting when people feel like it's an organic fit between the influencer or the celebrity and the brand, then it does better, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get all the haters that are like, why are you launching this? Like, you don't drink, or why are you launching this? Like, this is completely against your like brand ethos.
Right.
And finding celebrities and influencers that are really involved in the marketing. It's not just like you're slapping your face on a picture, but
Yeah.
really it makes sense with your lifestyle, what you're doing. You actually would drink this product. That's the most important thing, and making it a part of like what they're doing, and making their friends are involved. Everyone's involved in what they're doing versus it just being like an ad campaign, which
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Well, I mean, this is like, it doesn't necessarily trail off, but I agree with you, right? Like, because again, like I've worked on like creator brands and it works well if the product market fit works well with that creator, right?
Mhm. And their audience.
And their audience. You're absolutely right, where it's not just, yes, I think it has, in my personal opinion, this is just me, and going back to the Alex Cooper thing, right? It matters that it fits with their personal brand. But then I've seen other celebrities put out, there's actually like one brand that I work with where it's like, there's no strategy in like what it is that they're doing. And I'm not naming names on it, but there's no strategy. It's just like kind of like putting out products and then wondering like, why didn't that sell? Well, my friend,
Yeah.
it did not sell because it did not make sense for your personal brand ethos,
It's it's not specific to Bev either, right?
No.
It's just across the board, making sure that if you are going to put your name on it or your brand on it, that it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to your point too, like even just with Bevalk, right? Like there's a lot of great brands out there that have been from creators, but not all of like the taste of it is really good. It's literally like some of these people like slapped a label on it and was like, cool, you know? I I don't want to call out any of them, but there have been some few that I've tried and bought the bottle because it was like something I wanted on my bar, and then I tasted it and I was like, "Oh, this is not good."
That's why the story is so important is like, why
Yes.
are you creating this? Were you actually involved in, the liquid and selecting the liquid? Or was it a scenario where it's already bottled, it's already the liquid, and you're just like slapping, your name on it? And that's the difference of what I think lasts. And when you see the celebrity brands that really have longevity and get bought out, it's because they're really behind the brand
Yeah.
and they're thinking about it in everything that they do. How can they spin it into their other businesses so that they're doing their own internal partnerships with, if they're in movies, they're, making sure that product's involved in the movies. If they're
Yeah.
doing a party, that product's going to be at that party. And every single piece of, their personal brands, it's a part of it. And it's not just a standalone silo.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm so interested about the Twitch gamer one.
Dr. Disrespect.
Okay. Okay, I'll have to check out what it was. What was the
It was
product?
a black steel bourbon,
Interesting.
and it was a limited run.
Yeah.
But it just caught me by surprise
Mhm.
because we do a lot of big ones with big names that we've all heard of,
Yeah.
and that was one that kind of just took me by surprise because it was really incredible to kind of see the like the rabid
My friend, yeah.
authentic audience that they had.
Yeah, I know. I think that the gamer world and like the Gen Z world, because like Gen Zers are now coming of age
Mhm.
for alcohol specifically, um, is that fan base in general, like that generation of consumer is very rabid. But what's so interesting about them, like even as it pertains to alcohol, is that a lot of Gen Z doesn't like go out the way we went out. The
I know they get away with wearing sneakers to the club. They're not
I
wearing like traipsing through the snow and
yeah, and your
stilettos.
short skirt with your yeah, I know. That's our generation that we grew up with,
And you
right?
had to, you were out till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you were at the office the next day, and
Yeah,
it's
it's just different.
not the same.
But what's interesting about it though, so bringing up Gen Z is that they are more collectors though. So I wonder, I don't know much about this audience, but I wonder if, from that collector, like that rabid like fan for this one product was because like of collecting the product and like wanting to have it on their shelf. So even though they don't consume alcohol as much and they're not like going out to the clubs all the time, just Gen Z is just interesting when it comes to collectibles.
Yeah, I love actually when brands, maybe it's a brand that doesn't do a ton of innovation on like the liquid standpoint, but they have things that they're constantly creating new news and collectible items.
Yeah.
And it makes my job so much easier because it's a lot harder when a brand wants to like promote their evergreen product that's been the same for 15 years and isn't changing, and they don't have
Yeah.
a new campaign, they don't have new assets, and it's just kind of like the same thing. And it's hard to get people excited about like, why do I need to buy this again right now?
Mhm.
And I always talk to brands that maybe don't have new innovation coming down the pipeline. What is a new story that you can tell? How can you make this collectible? How can you even just like a secondary box or packaging or partnerships that you might do with another brand to get in front of a new audience? And so, like, the collectability of products is really interesting. Veuve Clicquot does this amazingly. They always have, it's the same yellow label that we all know and love, but they always have something new coming down the pipeline, whether it's the arrows that they have on their website right now that people can personalize of like, how many miles are you from the Champagne region of France on there with your like, town name, which is really cute.
Oh, wow.
Or they had little like mini refrigerators or bubble jackets. I don't know. They're just always coming out with something new and interesting, but it's like the standard quality, product that people enjoy, but it's, exciting new plays on it. I
Yeah.
think smart.
Well, I think exactly. It's exciting and new plays, but I also think from like anybody listening that would be like a brand builder, whether it's you're in, alcohol or you're in, I don't know, frozen mac and cheese, right? Like whatever it
Yeah.
is, right? I think that the one thing to learn from that is that you can have this product that doesn't have like a ton of innovation, but it's the level of personalization that people really enjoy and really like. So if you're doing anything special, it's like, you don't necessarily have to go and engrave things, but like people are attracted to a brand and want to go and pick up things if they can personalize it, if they can make it feel like an experience.
And that's when Reserve Bar is, one of their top selling SKUs, if you were to call it a SKU, is engraving because
Yes.
people want a personal message on it. They want their company logo engraved on it, something that's going to set them apart from sending just a normal bottle of wine and spirit so that people know that they're thinking of them. And we see a lot with, anniversary dates or wedding dates or, child's birthday, all sorts of things on there. And the personalization, beyond engraving, whether it's Casa Dragones does beautiful calligraphy labels,
Mhm.
and they do that through their website that we manage. And like I mentioned with the Vouv arrows that are personalized, there's a lot that brands can do. There's obviously, it's harder to scale when you're
Mhm.
doing those personalized touches, but it goes a long way. It
Yes.
makes people a little bit more loyal to the brands. And, I think that people like that extra level of white glove service.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, there's something to also be learned here because you guys like deal with a lot of like luxury elk, right? But like that's what makes luxury is that personalization. Like you spend that money for, a purse or shoes or whatever because of that experience that you're getting with that luxury brand. So like what we're basically talking about is that level of personalization can be duplicated with other brands no matter what the product is, but if you treat your customer feeling as if they are a VIP every single time, like they will be more loyal to you. Now, granted, like what we were talking about in the beginning about giveaways and stuff, and like some people can be in your list that maybe like won't repeat or they won't come back. But then the VIPs that do come back after a giveaway or after like one personalization moment is your true fans.
Yeah. And, being able to offer them something that money can't buy, or,
Yes.
there's something if a consumer has experienced your brand in real life experience, whether it was an event or whether it's at one of your distilleries, if then they purchase the product, you usually can get a lifetime customer out of them because they've seen how the product was made. They have that personal experience with the brands, and it's like that insider piece where,
Yes.
I've gone to the caves of Champagne and seen Perry Jouet on the riddling racks, and I will forever be a Perry Jouet girl. I was selling it for years, but it has a special place in my heart because I've been there and I've seen the commitment to, luxury.
Yeah.
And a consumer, as you mentioned, they may have started out by just attending an event, but that's going to give them a little bit of exposure into the brand ethos. And then if then they purchase it, they weren't just here for the free product. That person's going to be a little bit probably more valuable than someone that hasn't experienced it in real life.
Yeah. Well, the other lesson there is like segmenting, like which are most valuable and which aren't, and like doubling down, like with your audience that you think will be the most valuable.
Yeah. And a lot of brands, because as I mentioned before, e-commerce in the wine and spirits world is, 10 or so years behind everybody else. And when I'm talking to brands that maybe have a long history of people in their CRM, but are new to the e-commerce world, it's also reminding them about that life cycle marketing and
Yes.
making sure that they're keeping a separate segmentation of people that are purchasing the product versus just people that have come in through a different way, and making sure that you're asking them if they enjoy their product, if they want to refill, add to basket again. And it's stuff that typically wine and spirits marketers aren't necessarily thinking about, except for in the wine world where they do more
Yeah.
DTC. But it's something new to think about that wasn't part of the equation a couple years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I have one more question because you brought up the wine thing. I would love to hear your take on just the innovation in wine. Like, um, I'm sure you've noticed that wine is leaving the bottle and it's going into like more RTD. People are even bringing, I forget the brand, but people are even bringing back the wine back.
So, actually, an old colleague of mine, Allison, she launched a wine in a box, but
Okay.
like in a more luxury, cool way. It's
Yeah.
called Juliet Wine.
Okay. I'll have
It's
to check
doing
this
really well.
out.
It's doing really well. You'll have to check it out. And it's always interesting to see new packaging and new ways of drinking old things. I love wine,
Yeah.
but I definitely have seen declines in the industry of people not drinking as much wine as they used to, and for different occasions. And it's nice to, if you can find a quality product, right? I mean, back in the day, boxed wine was, or jugged wine, I mean, not good, not good.
No.
And, it's nice to see when people that have a commitment to a really quality product, but they're putting it in a more innovative packaging that makes sense for that consumer, whether it's on the go or in a larger format, and being able to get the best of both worlds,
Yeah.
where you can have like a quality product that's in a can, whereas traditionally cans have been seen as a little bit more lowbrow.
Right.
So I love when people can do both.
Yeah. Well, yeah, cans have been seen more lowbrow, but then like the whole seltzer kick. Now, I think like the seltzer kick has kind of inspired the wine kick, right? And I think we'll start seeing more innovations there. I think with a lot of different alcoholic beverages, to be honest with you.
100%. I've been in this industry my whole life. I can make a really good cocktail, and I have lots of amazing spirits at home to make cocktails. But I also love an RTD, and I
Yeah.
love the convenience of it. I
Yeah.
always have them stocked in my fridge because sometimes you don't want to make a cocktail. Sometimes you don't have all the ingredients for something that you want. Sometimes you want it on the go. You want to like take it onto a boat, take it in my purse for a
Yeah.
soccer game, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. There's lots of reasons why you want the convenience of something being in a can. And I love that seltzers are a little bit lower in alcohol, so you can enjoy more of them without like it going right to your head. So I like that piece of
Yeah.
it. And, I think it's great that they're coming out with really, really good quality products now in a convenient packaging.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think CPG in general is like all about convenience packaging at this point, you know. Um, well, my friend, we are near the end of the road, and I want to make sure that the audience knows where they can find you and Reserve Bar. Can you tell the audience?
So yeah, they should go to reservebar.com. We actually newly launched our website. So we have a whole new look and feel, making, checkout that much easier. You can get on-demand delivery to your house in an hour, or, a beautiful gift shipped to a loved one. And, I'm here in New York. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever. But yeah, it was so nice to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and talking about like the alcohol industry, because there's just so many things that we can learn from an industry that has been around for a long time. But there's a lot of valuable information from brand building on how alcohol is innovating that we can apply to the other things that we're building, whether it's frozen mac and cheese or not.
Yeah. And you have so many, I mean, you have so many amazing founders and young brands that have been on here as well. And so, if any of them want to get into the space, I
Yeah.
love, love, love. One of my favorite things is talking to new brands, and I'm happy to kind of, share some of my experience as well with them too. So
Yeah,
whatever comes
definitely.
open.
So if anybody's listening, to either reach out to myself or Kate, and like happy to connect you to Kate if you feel inclined to reach out to me first. Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in for another episode of Above the Fold, and I will talk to you next week.
Hey friends, welcome to Above the Fold podcast. I'm your host, Jess Servion. We're going to be talking about everything in your customer's journey. You're going to learn things about customer experience, brand experience, and marketing secrets that help you drive your brand success. So stay tuned, buckle up, and let's get into the episode.